search and rescue. That's our goal.
That was kind of because, you know,
we just want to rescue.
So we know that about a third of this happens in the summertime. Are you involved in the November time when the hunters get lost? Are you ice fishermen? Do you have to rescue those types of things?
Absolutely. I was on duty on Thanksgiving night. Dan and I occasionally take duty, so we stay proficient in in the frontline operations. And I took Thanksgiving night and was launched 3 times that night. Once on a flare sighting down in the Chicago area, and then twice on lost hunters. And,
wow.
That night, we searched for a lost hunter with state and local responders who eventually found a lost hunter. Right. At the same time, we had another lost hunter up in the UP.
Right, I read about that. It was in the very famous. They had to build a big fire, and then you had to airlift
We had to airlift the emergency responders from the local municipalities as well because it was so cold. Right. And our pilots, I thought, just did a brilliant job. They did what we call a no reference hoist. So they were over 150-foot trees, which requires a lot of power with absolutely nothing to look at, and with precision they hoisted out the victim, the hunter, as well as the ground party afterwards. So just a wonderful job by our crew, and that's the type of mission that we get involved in. The quicker we can get on scene and effect a rescue, the better, and the more detailed information we have about where somebody is going, the more likely that's going to happen.
John up in Travers City handles most of the lost hunters. I don't get as many of those ice rescues. Yeah. Now there's where we heat up Saginaw Bay and then Western Lake area. If you remember the flow last year, 134 folks off the flow.
Right, absolutely. Yeah.
Yes, sir. That was.
So you had to pull most of it?
That was probably one of the best interoperability events I'd seen in a long time between state and then the government federal response. But we had our spot boat stations that had the airboats out there. Okay. We had our Coast Guard helicopters we had put our rescue swimmers on the flow to help manage and direct people. They were using message blocks to go ahead and basically commandeer civilian airboats saying, we need your assistance, could you help? We were doing that. We had the local police department, the local fire department, the state police were involved in this. Everybody came together, Customs, CBP was on it. There was so much, so many people working together, so much interoperability. I think it was about 3.5 hours. Had 134 people off the flow, and everybody was safe on land. So we do a lot of that, and usually it's Saginaw Bay is another, obviously a big fishing area.
Great
Anchor Bay, yes sir, yes sir, and you can see it coming. I mean, we'll see a weekend coming. It gets a little warm, a little bit of a thaw, and we know that okay, cracks are going to be developing. We're going to be up in Saginaw. A few weeks ago, and we had that little bit of a thaw in January. I turned to my ops boss, I'm like, I bet you it's going to be the weekend. He's like, I think so, sir. Wow. I think we were up there probably about 5 or 6 times that weekend.
Wow.
So it gets pretty busy. And, Commander Spanner here earlier, it's the same stuff, Don't go out alone. Don't drink. Even wearing a life jacket there helps you out because, we read a story recently. I don't know if you'd seen that one from a Coast Guard pay officer that went in the water, and he talked about his ordeal of being in the cold water and how quick he almost succumbed to. Right. I mean, I read it, and I was just like, oh my God, his hands got frozen. He said he was using, his fingers were to the point where he was using those to kind of dig in the ice to chip at things because his fingers were just that cold. He was trying to get handholds. Right. And to listen to this person talk about it just made me shudder to think that, oh my goodness, I mean, here's a guy that's experiencing, to live through that ordeal. It's pretty challenging.
Well, and especially with the training that for the profession. I would assume that they, you've got a specialty skill sets that are involved with that, and it's amazing.
I think one thing I'll point out also is the importance of our international partners, especially Canada. They bring some very unique capabilities. They're just great partners in search and rescue, not just security on our shared border, but we had a mission last summer that required fixed wing, large patrol aircraft coverage, and the Canadians were able to work with us. They brought their aircraft in to help us with search operations, and also the tribal entities like the Grand Travers Band of Chippewa and Ottawa Indians, significant partners on our frontline operations, and make us much more effective because we can stay integrated and we have shared common goals, and that's just so important in this region.
Well, and I think that's what we've always up north been able to get along and work together.
Absolutely.
It was interesting when I last winter had the opportunity to be on the Cutter Mackinac and learned a little bit about what the capacities of the Canadian Coast Guard is with their ice-breaking operations and how there's a lot of collaboration that's going on there. It's very impressive what's going on. And then I know know that besides the Grand Travers Band, and Chairman Bailey does a phenomenal job. We've
Absolutely.
got Little Travers Band and the Sioux Tribe and the Bay Mills Tribe and Little River Band, all kind of working with some things. I'm personally involved in some of the hunting and fishing issues with them on certain areas, and they've been very responsive within the criterion given.
We're also looking at, Chairman Bailey and I are working right now on you know, he often asks a very good question of what kind of ancestors do we want to be, whether it's myself or yourself or him, you know, his organization, and we're working on beyond operational and frontline coordination from a cultural perspective. What can we be doing? Can we provide mentoring and recruiting, and you know, with his organization, can he provide cultural, historical perspectives for us in the Coast Guard? So we're going to be working closer on those issues as well in the future. I'm really excited about
Wonderful. That's very good. Now, talking through, we talked a little bit about the missions. What is a typical complement of an air station when you have, you said 5 aircraft plus a couple extra ones for different stationing? Do you have, is it 500 people? Is it, you know, is it how big of a facilities do you have in the different?
I think a couple of big things for us. I don't have a galley or a clinic, so I'll let Commander Sparrow talk to that. I've got about 105, about 26 officers. 2 of those, one would be Warren FNS, and then I have 1 maintenance officer. The other 24 I'll fly.
And is that because that's at the Joint Operations Organization there at Selfridge? Is that why you don't have a galley?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And not all air stations have them. You
Right.
could have a really big air station. Some of those don't have galleys.
Okay.
It kind of depends upon, you know, where you're at. But yes, being located at Selfridge, which is, that alone is just an incredible.
Right. I chair the
joint
Veterans
operations.
Committee as my other committee, and so we had we were over with a couple of the senators from the Macomb area doing a tour of that. It's an impressive facility you have.
Oh, and you hit on as far as the joint ops. But we have about 105 people that run it. Like I said, 24 pilots, and then I've got about 73 enlisted, about 4 civilians.
Okay.
So
now is that, I assume because of technology, you've got fewer guys but doing more work? Is that pretty fair to say?
no, those are about the normal numbers. Each aircraft, I mean, they're getting, as they get older, like the 65, there's so many, you get so many pilots for it and so many mechanics to run the operations. But all air stations are built on the same figures, same numbers, you know, whether it's a 65 or a 60. Each aircraft comes with a complement. So based on how many aircraft you have assigned, it's kind of how many people, and then they add. So if you have a galley, or if maybe you have a bigger facility, a housing facility, you might get some different flavors added in there. Yes, sir.
Commander, I'm sorry, we're getting close to the end of our show. I assume you've got about the same number of people in Traverse City?
We do, when you add in for aviation, but then we also have a health clinic, and we have a galley, both of which do amazing work.
Fine dining, I've been over
Fine
there.
dining, you're welcome anytime.
Thank
you. That takes us up over 150. So.
Gentlemen, thank you very much
Yes,
for your
sir,
time
thank
today.
you.
We really appreciate it. This concludes our Northern Michigan update. Feel free to contact us at the information listed below. Thank you very much.